Okay, we're live. Sweet. What's up, everyone? Okay. Well, I guess I'm just reading this guy's blog about build tools. Mm. It's kind of interesting. So basically, if you remember your high school or college classes where you decide to use like make files, essentially build tool I think is just like a very archaic version of that. And what you'll find with modern build systems that try to do this at scale, like Buck and Bazel, is that the fundamentals have not really changed that much. So some modules might depend on building other modules, et cetera, et cetera. It's just that we've gotten a lot better and a lot more, how to say, um, it's a lot easier for us to be a little bit more verbose with the types of builds we want to do and what we want to actually do with them. So for instance, like this, for instance, this logic here with the BT demo and then target demo. The man pages, specify man pages, sources, and types. That hasn't really changed that much if you think about it. It's just that we can now specify a lot of source and a lot of other modules as dependencies. So this guy, Julio Moreno, I recommended his blog actually on in my Discord. But this guy used to actually be like the tech lead of the Basil team at Google, and I've learned actually quite a bit from a lot of his blog posts. So I really recommend you guys read this. Like his blog posts going back all the way to 2004. This guy's been in the game for a while, so. And some of them are actually like super esoteric. Hold up, let me actually bring up some of the Basil stuff because this is actually very directly related to my work. So UI locking, file downloads are pretty good. Oh, dynamic scheduler. Oh, Bazel strategies. Okay, so this is something I know about, but it might be kind of not known to you guys. But basically, the strategy here just means that hey, how do we want to actually build our certain modules? So, for instance, if I have strategy A, strategy B, if I rearrange the ways I do my compilation, then doing it one way will be faster, and doing it one way will be slower. So let's take the super naive approach, right? Let's say I build one module at a time that's not parallelized. Well, that's going to take forever. But if I'm a little bit smarter about it, then I can actually do this. I can do this like within a lot faster just by the nature of threading. So there's a few strategies that they actually talk about. So standalone strategy is that it directly spawns on top of the output tree. That is, the commands are running with a working directory that resides inside the output tree, and all the files are referenced with that directory. So it just basically means that this is just a strategy that will end up pointing to the current working directory and all the stuff outside in that. Sandbox. So Sandbox is the Bazel strategy for promising correct builds. And so what it means is just that the environment itself is a control instead of the working environment. It goes through the folder. And if I remember correctly, it actually just copies those files. So let me double check this. So create a directory outside the output tree that contains the input files required by the spawn as read-only files. This is done by a symlink. Executes the spawn under that separate directory using namespaces and Linux Sandbox. Yeah, so it specifies the environment variables very specifically for this run, and then moves the output out of the sandbox and moves on. So standalone, the difference between standalone and sandbox is just that standalone allows you to have, like I said, spawn outside on the output tree. But most of the time, you're going to want to use sandbox just to ensure that none of your outside variables are going to screw with the build. So for instance, maybe you might have set some global Bazel only flag, and you might have forgotten about it. Okay, working strategy. The worker strategy, whose compiler is costly to start and whose compiler keeps state around to organize incremental builds. So for instance, this just means that hey, I have a worker and I have a bunch of actions. This worker, I'm going to keep it persisting, running, and then you just keep feeding it actions. So basically, you eliminate the startup time of like JVM and just-in-time compiler warm-ups. So there's another strategy that Basil can use. Yeah, so here's the interesting part I don't remember actually. Worker management is very rudimentary, so blindly enabling workers can make your machine melt due to memory pressure. Interesting. Yeah, I think this is kind of a problem that I'm actually running into. And I know that workers definitely help in speed build times, but when you're dealing with like a large amount of code, this can actually go really really bad really quickly. And the remote is the last one. It just means that hey, we're gonna execute all the remote processes on another machine. I think this one's honestly like the best one. The reason why is because you actually solve the speed problem because most of these inputs and outputs are going to be like 1 or 2 megabytes each. But the compilation time is what's going to kill you. So I would imagine that if you're dealing with thousands and thousands of files, uploading and downloading them, downloading the result is going to be the single bottleneck. I haven't actually looked too much into remote strategy, but basically this is the type of strategies that a lot of these build systems can take advantage of. And was never really present in the days of make. Everything would have to be done locally. You trigger a make file on a module, and everything's compiled on your machine. You walk away, get some coffee, come back. Now you can be a whole lot smarter about it. And this is like, if you guys are interested in like infrastructure work, or even working at Google, like knowing the basics of Bazel is almost inescapable. Like I think Bazel, like the internal version Blaze, it has been used at Google since 2008, and every single other build system like Buck basically takes cues from Bazel itself. Of course, Buck is an oversimplified version of this that does a lot of things incorrectly, but a lot of these concepts and ideas for these build systems I think are incredibly useful, and a lot of these strategies do apply to, or at least the code structure applies. So this is just for instance, you might be asking yourself like the strategy pattern. You might have read it in like clean code or whatever, right? Well, a strategy pattern just allows you to just create a interface that specifies the type of action you want to do for at runtime. And so this is literally an example of strategy at play in order to try and make your code base better. Not necessarily for code cleanliness, but also that you actually see it here that it will actually have a real effect on your build times. So I think that is pretty interesting for the people who are looking at the infrastructure and senior level work. Bazel is definitely a good thing to read up on. For the people who are only curious about the real world implication of software patterns, you can just literally take this blog post and then dive through the code and then just see, hey, yeah, how does this all look together? So like you have the strategy pattern right here, and then you can trace through it, look at how the code is organized, and you kind of see here. I think I'm going to see if local spawn runner. It should have a generic abstract spawn strategy. Of course. No? Okay, maybe not on this one. But you get my point here. Anyway, it's 8 p.m. Enough rambling from me. Let's bring on my client. Okay. Alright, let me call him up. Give me a sec, guys. We're going to do mostly behavioral interview stuff today. Hello?
Hello.
Hey, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Cool. What's up? How did the studying go?
For the behavioral or
No. Yes, because we talked yesterday, and did a few problems. I think I mentioned a few things regarding the testing the base case. Did you get a chance to try that?
Yeah. I got a test against base case. So generally, I didn't do too many problems since then, but I did a couple. Generally, I would test the base case first, and then go to the more complex examples, sort of thing.
Did you find yourself making less mistakes?
Yeah. Like usually, I would make a couple compile time mistakes. Oh, not compile time, but like I still have the compile time, but like the runtime, like where I'm like, oh, I didn't handle this case, like where it's null or something. That happened a lot less. Like I take like maybe 1 or 2 tries to just compile it, including the compile time errors that I accidentally missed typo stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so that's pretty good. And we'll test out how good you are today. But Like I said on Tuesday, let's try to actually do like some behavioral interview stuff. Since
Yeah, for
your
sure.
Google interview is going to be on the 23rd or
Yeah,
26th,
26, 26,
26,
26.
26. Yeah, yeah, let me update the doc because I
Oh
keep.
wait, 27, 27. Yeah.
Okay, actually, that's a lot. Yeah, so we have 17 days till then. So let's actually try squaring away like the behavioral stuff. So I have your resume here. You're okay with me showing this, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
All right, cool beans. Let's see. So hopefully people can see this on stream. All right, cool. So he's got his email, GitHub. So yeah, give me like 30 seconds to run through it, and we're gonna start there.
Yeah, no
Hopefully you
worries.
have your notes on what's it called the things you
Stories.
want to talk. Yeah, stories and things you want to talk about.
Yeah. So, is it okay to have the sheet with me right now and read it? Not read it, but like, not read off of straight off of it, but like have bullet point form notes until I start memorizing for the actual interview.
Yeah. I mean that's fine, but don't worry. We'll talk about it. If you have if you have those notes on Google Doc, that would help. So, but let me first read this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Regarding this resume, I had to update it with some information because Google wanted me to have my most up to date stuff, and it includes start dates for everything. So usually I wouldn't include some of the start dates that I have. I just include the end date, but Google made me
Okay.
put in the start dates for my resume.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I mean, this is just going to. Okay, I understand. Normally, I would try to revise your resume. There's definitely a lot of things that can be done here. Like,
Yeah.
if I look at your professional experience, you have quite a few, but it's like so sparse. I'm like, what the fuck? I feel like you
What do
should
you mean
have
by
more.
sparse?
Like, if you look at it, your Amazon has 2 bullet
Yeah.
points, and you've been an
Yeah.
intern twice. What the heck?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I like it's just basically an intern project. I don't know how to describe it too well. I guess like
Okay.
how much detail I should go into describing it, sort of thing.
Okay, I see. Okay, and then you have like IBM here as well. I don't give a shit about your projects to be honest. Once you have this internship
Yeah,
experience
thank
going.
God, because I had put in almost zero time to my projects.
Holy shit! Yeah, no. When we do the interviews, it's almost always gonna be focused on like professional experience, if you have any.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's start with here. Design created automated solution that onboards over 100 Amazon fulfillment centers worldwide onto a machine learning track. Okay, you created it. Tell me a little bit more about this one.
So this was the first Amazon bullet, right? Bullet point.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, Amazon fulfillment centers, they have like a lot of them at least have used computer vision. They have a lot of robots running around in the warehouse. So with all the robots and humans running around in the warehouse, there's a lot of chance for entropy. So like things getting misplaced in the warehouse, and my job is to utilize the computer vision machines to make sure that we are able to find the items in the warehouse, even if they do get lost.
Okay, find lost items in the warehouse. Okay.
Yeah.
Unidentified tracks. You could write, yeah. But then what do you mean onboards?
So that was the process. So onboarding. So usually when warehouses are built, they're not initially having they initially do not have the proper software for the machines to handle tracking each item, right?
Mm-hmm.
And since each item is stored in a bin, and those bins have defect probabilities on, does this contain the correct amount of items? Does this contain the right items? So I had to onboard. So they don't have that software that shoots out the bin defect probabilities. So I had to onboard the warehouse. So train all the robots there to make sure that they can identify the proper items and yeah, the items inside the bins and shoot out the bin defect probabilities.
Okay, got it. So you actually had to go to these fulfillment centers yourself?
No, I wish. A trip was planned, but due to COVID, I was unable to go.
Okay, fair. All right. That's a pretty good project actually. So the gist of it, and I think I would definitely want you to rehearse this a little bit better, is that you basically train robots, or you write a program to help robots find lost items in a warehouse.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Do the
You
robots?
can't find it, you can't sell it.
Okay. That's fair. So I think that's a good project. And then towards the end of the project, you deployed it on the robots using what?
So basically, we had a pipeline. I deploy it to the pipeline, and then the pipeline deploys it to the robots in the warehouses,
Okay.
and it starts onboarding them.
Hmm. Okay. So did you write this from scratch, or did you improve upon an existing one?
This was basically from scratch. The repo was created for me, but it's for just basically processing signals rather than actually onboarding them.
Okay. This is an actual tool that robots had to use that you came up with.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, no, there's no like I specifically didn't have to like make the robots move their arms or anything because it's basically computer vision stuff. So I never had to move any robots myself. But yeah.
Okay, then let me dive a little bit deeper, just for the sake of crafting the story.
Yeah.
This object detection, did you have to come up with what was the part that you came up with? What's the part that was already given to you?
So the object detection was already there. Basically everything here was so it's sort of a manual process for onboarding the fulfillment centers. So I had to automate that onboarding process. So generally, I had to make sure the machines were all trained. But all the signals and data was already there to process. Like the machine learning tracking system was already implemented for me. I just had to call it and give it the proper data.
Okay, so your product really is just calling an API and then saying, "Hey, what is this object?"
Yeah, it was essentially like eliminating toil essentially for the developers.
Okay, so now I have a little bit. So the API is already well defined. Okay.
Huh?
Okay, got it. So when I look at something like that, I'm gonna ask myself, what is special about what you did? You know, let's say I have you who did this project and someone else who did the same exact project, right?
Yeah.
My question is, why should I hire you over the next guy? What like if someone else got the same assignment, what would they do, and then what did you do better?
Okay, yeah. I mean, other than actually doing the project, what I did was I added on specific alerts and notifications to people whenever an error happened. The developers whenever an error happened, sort of thing. That's special.
So when you say alert notifications, you mean to the robot or to the developer?
To the developers. Like if an error happened with the robot or something, then I would send a notification over to the developer.
Okay. Anything else?
Other than writing a design document for it with lots of funny not fun, but like a lot of colorful diagrams. Other than that, not really.
Interesting. Okay. So and then you wrote the design document, you wrote the code, and then you added some alerts, and that's it.
Yeah, essentially.
So, the way I would massage this story is that I would want to this experience at least. You would probably say something like you created, designed, and deployed a automatic. Yeah, you need to also reword this shit, by the way. But created.
I have it.
Yeah, so created, designed, and deployed a lost item detection program for Amazon fulfillment center robots. And then you need to have some hard and fast numbers about like how many packages were lost and recovered, how much like the business metrics that you moved.
Yeah, I mean I'm not sure how I could find those, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'll try to come up with a guesstimate.
Yeah, some kind of guesstimate. Because then what I'm gonna ask you about is like the technical complexities.
Okay, yeah.
Like think of the interviewer, right? You're gonna need to come up with a technical way to convince me that hey, you're not some fucking bozo that I could have just hired in India. Well, like the offshore developers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So my question to you is, well, let's follow the train of logic. If I like say let's go technical before we go behavioral. So the thing is that you just basically glued an API to the a series of APIs, and how complicated was the code really?
I mean, I created from scratch, so it wasn't really too complicated because I knew everything starting from the bottom up. Okay. The most difficult part was just getting reading the internal data sources, like how everything works, learning about the entire process. and choosing which technologies to actually use.
Okay, what do you mean to which technologies?
Uh, say that again.
What do you mean which technologies?
Oh, cause like, how should I automate this? Should I use something have a trigger notification from like a certain using the AWS S3 database or something, or But I ended up using AWS step functions
Okay,
to trigger everything. But yeah.
got it. So okay, got it. I understand a little bit more now. Okay, so when we do that, let's how do I describe this? This is gonna be hard. Because something like that doesn't sound like it should take you 3 months to do. It should sound like it should take you 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it didn't take me that long to do this, but
Yeah, because I'm very concerned if that is like the entirety of your internship.
yeah, I mean, just one project they gave me. There are other milestones, sort of, but it was more or less just improving upon this one project.
So what are the improvements you made?
No, like it was milestones. So the improvements, other than actually automating the entire process, was the alerts, right? And was alerts like I notified the proper people around it. I was getting to specific, like, oh, maybe I can try a step 2 or something like that. But I haven't really gotten into that. But other than that, other than the notification tracking system, notification thing, there wasn't really too much about improving the actual process other than eliminating the toil from all the manual stuff.
Well, when you say toil manual stuff, like okay, I want you to be very cognizant. You remember how you said last time, oh yeah, this dude's just rambling and talking, and like when he was explaining some kind of algorithm. Notice you're kind of doing the exact same thing here.
Okay, yeah.
I want you to be very especially when you're like trying to talk to an interviewer about your behavioral stuff. You need to get to the point. And like when you say the manual toil, I'm like, what manual toil? Are you saying that people actually had to walk around the warehouse to find these boxes, or are you talking about like the manual toil like developers themselves? You have to be a lot more specific.
Okay, so the current manual process for this was essentially you click a few buttons, you wait a couple hours for everything to finish, and then you have to monitor it yourself. There's no notification.
What do you mean everything to finish? Notice how vague you're being.
Yeah, all the processes that you started from clicking the button to finish.
What processes? What are we talking about? Are you talking about deploying
the process
it? Or are we talking about,
as in, yeah?
What, are we talking about deploying the project, or what are we talking about here?
Yeah, so training the machine learning models, that's one process.
Okay.
And the machine learning models will kick off their own trainings. So we also wait for those to finish too and check up on those.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you can only proceed to the next step once those models are trained or the previous step has finished.
Okay.
Such as making sure your warehouse is a valid warehouse. So that takes like a couple hours because training it takes long and there's other steps to it too. And so I automated all of that for it to complete within the time essentially it took to train the models. So maybe like it depends on the region and part of the world you're in, but around an hour to 2.
Okay. So is this part of the actual project that you did, or is this outside of it?
I mean, this is part of the project. Automating the thing was part of my project, yeah.
Okay, so automating the deployment, that's what you're really talking about.
Yeah.
You could have just said that. I literally had spent
like I didn't,
I'd spent 5 minutes trying to fucking mine that out of you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, automate the training models, deploy the warehouse. All right, fine. And then the object detection is just you writing the code for that. Okay. So then when let's put the interviewer hat on. Okay, you told me this. The next thing I'm going to say is like, okay, you told me about the milestones as well. Is this someone else setting the milestones, or is this for you to, or did you have?
I set the milestones.
Okay, you set the milestones. Okay.
Well, the general project was laid out, but then like I added additional milestones.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm the thing is that I'm trying to put together the puzzle of how this takes 3 months.
Yeah.
So what did you first month? What did you do?
Basically it was mostly catching up with design, like the entire system, also meeting the team members individually, and so on, and writing the design document, and then starting up some code and choosing technologies.
Okay, and then the second month like writing it, and the third month's validating it. Okay, fine. And I was like, I originally I would have used the STAR method, but I'm pretty sure you already used that to try and write your resume. So, basically, I'm kind of assuming that this is all you got for me.
On the resume, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it was just like I don't know what else more to say other than like I automated deployment essentially.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because remember, let's say I'm hiring you for a junior entry engineer role, right? I need to be able to give you a task. I need you to show me that you can be given a task and you fulfill it.
Yeah.
So this is what we want to try and massage the statement into. So let's say you created, designed, and deployed a automated the process for robots to train robots to find lost packages.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. Definitely write this down, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, let me write it down. Let me find it.
Okay, so now that we defined exactly what the project is and now have a better idea of what you're doing, you can say that you also added to the scope of the project by adding alerts for the developer, alerts notifications for the developer as well, for in error scenarios or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you gotta qualify each one of these, right? Yeah. I understand. So then now let's go back to the interviewer, right? So then my question now would be like something along the lines: name a time when you had to work under, I don't know, when you expanded on the scope of an existing project. This would be one.
Okay.
Now you can see okay, well, now that I have the story here, I say, hey, initially I had to just do this project where we trained robots to find lost packages. I also thought it was appropriate to add a feature that would notify developers when errors occurred. So what does this mean? Does this mean that when the robot fucks up, that is, if the robot gets into an error state, that it triggers a notification to the pipeline, or you gotta be way more specific though. So.
Okay. Yeah.
So no, answer that question for me. When you say alerts notifications, what scenario and then who's alerting?
So, the error scenario was basically if you either the machine outputs some probabilities that are a bit too crazy, I guess, like maybe like outside of the accepted parameters, something like that, or the machines just cannot be trained, like something fails in the training process.
Okay.
So we would alert the developers, so that would be developers on my team or developers who actually are part of the mailing list for that specific email.
Okay, so then what you're saying is that alerts and notifications was more if you encounter a runtime issue, then you send out an email.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. These things need to be succinct. So why don't you give me like the alerts and notification feature that if I was to say it, I would say the alerts and notification feature that I developed would detect runtime errors and send out an email, notify the on-call developers or something like that. And then I can say then these runtime errors weren't just exceptions. They would also try to detect errors if the models that the robot was using gave highly unrealistic answers.
Okay, yeah.
Notice how succinct I have to be about that, and this is me off the top of my head. You need to be at least that and more.
Yeah. Okay, it's getting a bit hard to write everything down.
I mean, the live stream's here, but I would highly recommend that you at least.
That's true. So. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But at least just take notes on the important things.
Mhm.
All right. So now we have that. Now what kind of story do we want to paint for you as a developer? That's a question. Now that we know that that's our endpoint, the reason why I say this is because your entire resume and your story, or your story as a developer, should be a progression from like weakness to strength. So in other words, out of this project, what do you think it highlighted the best out of you as a developer?
Like, which part of the resume highlighted best about me as a
No,
developer?
I'm saying this experience. In theory, like you as a developer at Amazon should have been better than at IBM, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, what does that progression look like? What is the strong point that developed? Or are you just
I
a code
mean,
monkey?
I don't like that. I don't know.
Are you a code
I
monkey?
definitely.
Convince me you're not.
Yeah. I mean, I went from just being told what to do, and then from now I'm starting to design my own things and adding improvements to it.
Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly reasonable. At the beginning of IBM, I was mostly just doing tasks, and then now as I've taken on more autonomy as I went through the next internship and the next internship.
Yeah.
That's a perfectly reasonable answer.
Okay. Yay.
So, like, keep in mind though, I'm the only reason I'm being tough on you is because this is exactly what the interviewer is going to be thinking.
Yeah.
Believe me, like I'm pretty sure like almost every single interview that I've done like this week has been like code monkeys, and I'm just like no, thumbs down. So
yeah, is there like a hiring spree happening? Because I remember a lot of my teammates were like, "Oh, I'm stuck with a bunch of interviews this week."
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I'm like, "Wow, is everyone just busy with interviews this week?"
Well, I mean, I'm still interviewing people, but I'm not gonna say too much about it. Just that we really want good people. We really want good people. So you think of it from that perspective, then like Twitter's doing a hiring freeze. Everywhere else is doing a hiring freeze or like slowing down hiring. You gotta be really good and really convince the guy.
Yeah, for sure. You gotta convince them that you're good enough to be
let
in despite it.
Okay, so now that I have that, so one, you're gonna say one that you can take on more. You're more autonomous. I take on more tasks independently.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first narrative we wanted to paint. Is there anything else that you want to highlight?
I mean, I want to say I can come off as competent, but I don't really know how to describe that.
No.
Other than
You only really want like one or two what's it called?
Key points.
Key points that the person's gonna remember you for.
Yeah.
What do you want that to be?
More confident. Real eager to learn. I guess.
Those are soft things. We want something that you can prove with your experience.
Yeah. Can I say goes above and beyond? But I don't think I can say that too much.
Maybe this will help you if let me use myself as an example. If I was gonna do this, I would say I took a more expansive role with more complex, with more. I would say I work on. Yeah, I would say more infrastructure. It's very clear that I went from product to infrastructure, and in that I took a more expansive role, and I work primarily now in areas that have an unknown answer. So my trajectory would be I can tell you a lot about the Android tech stack, everything from the Android SDK to compilation and build systems. So I can write products, I can manage the developers who write the products themselves. And you can see like that progression in like when I through every single project I do, like from Apple to Uber, and even like the teams I joined. That is already proved by the work experience right there. You understand why you can understand why, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to say I'm a quick learner, I'm a whatever. Those are just like bullshit soft things. It's like, what does the experience tell me? So you imagine all your experience as a data point, right?
Yeah.
What type of linear regression do I want to run through it? And what is that characteristic that is going to point to at the end?
I went from only saving myself time to saving other people's time. Okay. Be a good point.
Okay, so then you were able to figure out how to be more efficient and have wider impact.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that goes well with like the frugality shit, because they're gonna ask you like name one time when you what would be a good one? When you had to work with limited resources or some shit.
Okay.
So yeah, but I'm using Amazon as an example. Google might ask you something very similar. But the idea is that these are our North Stars, let's try and create some stories that point to it. So you're able to take on tasks more independently. So with the Amazon internship, You said you were able to take on a task independently without much oversight. So, how would you massage the Amazon internship to uh, to convey that to the interviewer?
So I started with just an outline for the project that was really vague with not much requirements. But then I started talking to more people and getting more acquainted with what they are looking for in a project, and mapped out design doc for it, ERD, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. So these design documents are going to be like the UML diagrams, right?
I didn't really do it. I mean, it was basically like explaining each step of the process, defining some certain terms, seeing how the system fits into. Yeah, I guess you could say it like a
Okay.
UML diagram. But I would say more like flowchart sort of thing too.
Sure. So let's go engineering design documents. That's fine. So you start with a vague project or premise. Well, what was the premise though? Let's start with that. What is it? Just
Let's
have
yeah.
robots find items, or what was it?
Yeah, basically, we have this really annoying manual process. We don't want to do it. We don't want to do it manually anymore. Can you please automate it?
Okay, so automate a deployment process. You automate a deployment process.
Yeah.
Oh, so you didn't actually train the robots themselves. You automated the deployment of the models and training itself.
Yeah.
Oh, so you didn't actually write the core code.
I didn't write the core code for training the models. No, it was already done. Well, I had to kick it off, but I didn't really.
Okay. Okay, that's an entirely different story than what I was like understanding. You said you trained the robots. In my notes.
Yeah, I mean, I had to kick the training off because they didn't.
But you said you wrote the code. Okay, so see, like that's a very very big miscommunication.
Okay.
I like in my notes. I'm saying that you did the computer vision. You hit the APIs and you actually wrote the code to go back and forth with the robots and deploy it. But now you're saying that you only deployed it.
Yeah.
Okay. See. Okay. You gotta get that story straight. So you wrote the code to automatically deploy robot training, essentially.
Yeah.
Deployment process. Holy shit! Yeah. Okay. You need some work. You need a lot of work on that. You said you had some stories, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a Google Doc with them on?
Yeah, I have a Google Doc with them. I have it. It's not really clean though.
It's
but
fine. Well, we're gonna chop it up anyway. So. Okay.
Yeah,
So the vague project is just send it to me. Automate the deployment process of robot training. Fine. And then you use the example of lost item algorithm. Okay.
Say that again.
So the lost item algorithm or whatever subroutine that you said. And then so that's the example. That's not the focal point. The focal point is the automating the deployment of the robot training to the robot. And then you can talk. And then after that, you can talk about the blocking steps, where you have to train the model, then deploy it on the robot, and you just automate that entire process. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we say that you want to take on tasks independently, you said talk to people and mapped out the engineering design documents. The next question would be, what did you talk to these people about?
Do you guys have preferred language you guys want to do? Any technologies you guys want to do in particular? Any polls? Anything you guys would like to see automated in addition to this? Any like traps or like things I should look out for while automating this thing, or any like sites I should take a look at for some background information too.
Okay. So in other words, you're saying, hey, is there other things that increase the scope of the project? And the second is to the background to the is there a background to the problem, like other people trying a similar issue?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. And then you created mapped out the engineering design documents. Fine. Okay. So this is becoming a lot more cohesive of a story now. So I don't know if you can see my screen. But do you want me to share screen on what's it called Discord, or do you want to see it on stream?
Where are you modifying a document?
Not your document. Hold up. Let me actually do this. Let me copy your success stories and modify that document instead.
Okay, sure.
Okay, cool. All right. So let's do this. Requesting edit access.
Okay. Let me. let me just send you another link as an editor, because
you can just make the story. You just make the story. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Cool. I have it. So you only have the IBM stuff. Okay.
Yeah, because I don't really know what to put for the rest of my experience. Like, they were pretty not one note, but like they're like, oh, just do this task, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I go around digging, so I didn't really have any like people interaction stories, I guess.
You're missing the point. The point. Remember what I said before. The point here is to actually just make sure that you can paint the story of you as a developer, and everything else just fits into that mold. So in other words, so you see here, like I have some notes here, but basically you have this here, like you have a good story so far. Like, hey, you were given a task to automate a deployment process of robot training, and then you had a lost item algorithm, and you talked to people and mapped out the engineering design documents in order to try and increase the scope of the project. You got more data about the background to the problem, and then you created the design document, got the approval, and then you shipped it. And then you could describe like the problem that you're trying to solve here. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah. So the problem you're trying to solve, which was deploying on the robot and the blocking steps. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then let's see why am I making you do all this, right? So let's take like some behavioral questions. Tell me a time about a critical piece of feedback that you received. Well, boom. Talk about this. When you say talk to people, you must have gotten some feedback, right?
Yeah. So okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So now you can plug it directly into the story. Let's take another one. So let me pull up a list of behavioral questions here.
Like most of these, basically all of these stories that I already created were for Amazon when I first initially interviewed with them.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the Amazon one itself. So tell me a time when you not only met a goal, but you considerably exceeded expectations. Oh, I had a goal here of deploying the process, but then I increased the scope of the project. It's the exact same story. You're just using it in two different behavioral questions.
Yeah.
So that's why I spent 30 minutes just struggling through that. But this is like the kind of thing that you need to be able to do as well. Like in fact, like what's it called? This more wider, efficient impact right here. Increase the scope of the project. Okay, then of course then we're gonna ask how. Then you're saying like notifications, runtime notifications issue. And the background to the problem. So, and you're saying like, oh yeah, I investigated the background to the problem. Okay, what was the background to the problem, and how did you avoid any of the issues that people have seen before, or how did you harness the successes that other people had?
Oh, okay. So basically, people wouldn't know when a specific process is finished. Like they would technically just essentially just guess, because it's really random from warehouse to warehouse on when a process is finished. So I save time for actually them checking back up on it. So by automating the process.
Okay. Did anyone else try to solve this problem?
Not really. They would just wait, like check up on it whenever if they had free time.
Okay.
Rather than actually trying to solve it.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of that would help make this more interesting? I call it the sexiness factor. What makes this project sexy? Or not even project sexy, but like, what did you do about it that was awesome?
I made. Other than how, I don't even know what to say that is sexy, any sexiness, because essentially, yeah.
Let's quick Square Engineering ladder. You've probably seen me go about this.
Yeah.
So let's look at it.
I have the document open somewhere.
Yeah, so let's look at it. So at the L3 level, you're expected to write tests, document code, debug, participate in on-calls, software design feature for bug fixes under direct supervision, etc., etc. So the question, so now, and then if we look at the L4, you develop, design, ship, and maintain features, improve development experience with test coverage and code coverage, implements code that's clear, concise, and tested easily, consumed, understood by others. What do you think is missing so far from this story?
For the level 4 level?
Well, no, in general, based on at the L3 and L4 level, I've read you what the expectations are. So my question is, out of that, what do you think we're missing here?
let me read them all over again. I would say right. No, I wrote the participate. I guess I could say for ownership, I don't really go for on call at all.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, you kind of did the email blast notifications, so that kind of solves a little bit of it. So you can say like, "Hey, this is like for," so that way you designate an on call. But anything else?
Yeah. I guess improve. I guess I don't really do improve the development experience that much. I haven't. It's basically a development tool, but it doesn't enhance the experience that much. It just removes some of the tedious parts of the.
That is enhancing the development experience. If there's like a lot of bullshit we don't want to do, and you can automate it, that's great. But I would say the easiest one. How the fuck? How do you design the test? How do you know this even works?
Oh, I mean, initially I just tested each separate step by itself, and then since I tested each individual step by itself, I then tested it again when it's entirely built, and then after you're pushing it to prod, you see all the mistakes you made, and then fix those.
That doesn't sound like a good answer because you literally just told me I don't know if this works. All I did was just deploy it. How do you know
I tested each individual step.
Each individual step works, but how do you know your deployment works? How do you know, you said that you're waiting from one step to the next step to the next step, right?
Yeah.
For an old developer would, right? So how do you know that once one step is done, how do you know the next step triggers? Or how do you know if that pipeline fails?
Okay, so due to using AWS step functions, basically whenever a step is finished, it would go automatically to the next step. And then if there are steps that take a lot of time, I would maybe ask the step function to wait a couple of minutes before executing the step again, like a retry function.
Okay. No, that's retry. So in other words, you're basically putting all your trust into Amazon's steps fidelity.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how comfortable I feel with that, but okay. At least you can say overall we trust that Amazon step itself will work, but then you also have a few backup things like automatic retries.
Okay.
Steps. Anything else?
After automatic retry, I mean, basically, yeah, it relies a lot on step function. For verifying correctness, I mean, I would deploy it to smaller, to test stages, too, not production, but similar environment that won't affect anything in the real world, and test it on that.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
So when you basically a test environment, and it's like a test environment that simulates the real life warehouse, and then I would test it on that to make sure everything works properly.
Okay, so run in test environment, and then you had automatic retry for steps just in case something failed. Is there anything else that you thought of that to try and any redundancies or anything built into the deployment or what you wrote to try and make it make it bulletproof or robust?
Yeah. Make it robust. Not. No, other than just writing the basic unit tests and regression testing.
Okay.
Each step, and making sure the environment, there's the code reviews also, and the design, and having the design overlooked by everyone. There wasn't much other than that.
Okay, so then you create the criteria for correctness. That's the key point here. So then we can add this to back into the problem. You create the criteria for correctness as well for unit tests. Okay, that's fine. So you see here, we have a lot of notes that we can spin off, and we can put them into focus, and then we can always tie it back to the top level. You can take on tasks independently. In other words, if I gave someone a task, they might ask me to, they might just stay within the scope, right? They might not know how to verify correctness. They might just be a code monkey. And so you would be able to say, hey, not only can I take on this task, I can also specify how I can verify that the whatever I've written is right or not. And then you can also say, on top of that, I was able to go through the entire deployment process and add steps within the code itself to ensure that it's robust. Do you understand how that ties back to your take on more tasks independently?
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about whether or not what you wrote is buggy and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And all this
Yeah.
is the exact same experience. Like the what's called the critical feedback piece, the time when you not only met a goal but it consider exceeds expectations. We can massage this fucking story over and over again and take like this element or other element and make that our focal point, and then tie that to our moral.
Yeah. I'm starting to see it. It makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because initially I wasn't able to create a story at all for Amazon.
But funny enough, now that we have, look at that. It's like it took me 40 minutes of like beating the ever loving shit out of you, but we actually got something.
Yeah.
So, but this is what I mean. This is like the exercise I need you to be able to do for like a few of your stories. You need to be able to recite this story back and forth, like in your sleep, and know what bullet points you want to hit. And then when it comes time to answer the question, you're gonna focus on these one or two bullet. We're gonna focus on the moral and maybe one or 2 points in here that answer the question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The story, which is automate the deployment process, robot training, and then pertaining to the specific question, I would go to the points I or I. I mean, I would describe it with I or I or I3, I4.
You get it, yeah.
And then answer it with the 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And or ABs and all that. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Next thing. So let's use. It seems like you did 2 internships at Amazon. So my question is, what was the other project?
I mean, I'm currently in the middle of it.
I mean, you want to write about it and talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I will. I mean, I didn't write on it initially because when they asked me, this was right before I started, so I didn't really have anything to put on it. But currently, the project is essentially part 2 of the first one. So after onboarding it and tracking, and it shoots out the bin defect probabilities for each specific bin, I then had to run a selection algorithm that prioritizes assigning the bins to check up on to workers.
Okay, you know what? Let's do this. Since if you understand what I try to do here, I want you to actually type it out here. I want you to actually do this exercise yourself.
Okay.
So, in other words, I already did the first Amazon for you, right? And you notice how I broke it up into like important bullet points and talking points, right? Think of it like, let's say the president goes out and wants to have a presidential rally, right? He knows that he's gonna have 20 second sound bites. What are those sound bites you want to pick up, and what are the important points you want to talk about in that campaign speech? Except he's not. It's the exact same thought process. I want you to think of it that you're talking about the exact same thing with your Amazon thing. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
So go ahead and do it. You know, each of these points is gonna be different. So.
Yeah. So I would probably just type out the description of it first, and then to make sure. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you already wrote follow up. Okay. So, then example. So I'll put in assigning defective bins to workers to ensure optimal times. And then if I wanted to, should I expand upon optimal times a little bit?
Yes, because that's vague.
Making sure. Huh?
That is vague. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Making sure workers don't walk across the warehouse too much. Like making sure they stay in the designated areas. Making sure workers stay in designated areas.
What does that have to do with defective bins?
Because after you know the defective bins, you have to assign workers to actually check those defective bins after the machine checks them.
What exactly? What defines a defective bin?
A defective bin is if it has the wrong items, or it has the wrong amount of items, or it has the wrong items in the bin.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Write that detail in, because I don't know. A defective bin to me sounds like the bin is cracked or something.
Oh yeah. Wrong number of items in bins or wrong items in bins.
Okay. So then, well, now you have wrong number of items in the bins and wrong or whatever, or wrong items. how does optimal times, like, what exactly are you doing with optimal times here? I don't get it.
So optimal time. So Amazon basically the warehouse is not a cold storage warehouse, like as in it's not organized.
Yeah.
Whenever you find something in the warehouse, just throw it in the bin and it be tracks for you. So it's essentially random, random inserts, random output,
Okay.
random take gets.
That's fine.
Essentially.
Yeah, I think that's important. The context is important. Okay. So
Yeah.
you feel free to. I would say you might want to lead off with that. Okay. So then now, the bins become defective when they have like some random bullshit in them, because you're dropping items randomly in them. So okay.
Yeah.
So then how do you make this quote unquote optimal? And what's your part in this?
So, I mean that's the goal of it. I didn't actually implement the optimal time, I guess.
Okay.
But
When we say optimal times to do what?
Yeah, to check the bins. So each worker essentially has a certain number of bins they need to check, and each bin can be located in several locations in the warehouse. We want to make sure they're all in as a close area.
Okay, so you want to make sure that each of the whatever we drop off is close to the area that it will end up in.
Yeah, essentially when you want to check a bin, you want to make sure that the next bin is not too far off from the bin you just checked.
Okay. I want you to notice something. Notice how difficult it was for me to get that understanding out of you.
Yeah.
And that in a real interview that would have cost you like 5 minutes to just explain why is this even a problem? Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? Second, notice how many words you spent trying to explain something when I just did this. Notice like how each of these are phrases and very easy to understand. So knowing that, can you do that? Can you rewrite this in order to do it in the same way that you will? Can you rewrite this?
Okay. Assigning. Decorating defective bins? No, but I still have to define defective bins. Basically, I can say automating deployment of checking bins to workers. I guess. Oops, I should just comment that out. I mean, other than that, how do you think this sounds?
Well, let's put on our explain like I'm a 5-year-old. I have the attention span of 15 seconds. I need a 15-second soundbite. Does that sound like it's gonna work?
Automating deployment of checking bins to workers? I guess. But maybe I don't know. Should I define what a bin means?
Pretend I want to spin this in the worst way possible. Could I do it?
Yeah. Okay. Checking. I still have to define what defective is. I mean, I guess it depends on what other, because it could mean so many things. And then I can sort of reiterate. I can dive deeper into it if they do ask. Automating deployment of checking bins to warehouse workers. Automate deployment. Okay, yeah.
Alright, I'm going to tell you... Okay, let me do it, and I'm going to tell you how I think about these things.
Okay.
So I'm going to say that you have way too many fucking words here. So I'm going to say that it would be something along the lines of how to ensure random inserts are optimal. And then what are my random inserts? Amazon randomly inserts items into bins.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Amazon warehouse randomly inserts items into bins. How do I know those random inserts are optimal? When they eventually, and then at that point we can start go into the discussion of what is optimal. It's like it's closer to where it will ultimately end up.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make sure it's closer to where it will. Do you notice the difference between what you did and what I did?
A lot less words for yours, yeah. And sure. So yeah, you took the part where what I actually have to do, like the context, and then exactly the goal. Okay, so yeah, context, task, and goal. Yeah.
The thing is, you got hung up on this idea of defective bins.
Yeah.
You missed the forest. What I call is missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah. Okay.
And then what the fuck is this? That workers stay in designated areas for checking bins.
Yeah, that was more of making sure they don't walk across the warehouse to check.
Is that part of the
like
same
they don't want to
problem?
ship in across the warehouse, like from one end to the other.
Okay, so that's an edge case, but keep in mind this is the bigger problem. You're talking about the examples of like the sub problems within that problem. And I'm trying to say, I just want the bigger picture. We can go into details later. Like, this is one part of it, right? Because, for instance, if the worker ends up going across the, like I said, like if the goal is to reduce the amount of distance items have to eventually travel, then you don't want the worker to run across the warehouse, drop off an item, run back and forth, and eventually have it be placed somewhere that it didn't have to be moved to begin with. But that's a sub-problem of the overall problem, making sure the random inserts in bins are optimal. So, in other words, what is the most important thing here when solving this problem? That's what you should be telling me.
Okay, yeah, the most important thing when solving the problem.
Yeah. Why should the interviewer care? Why should I care about some random worker running back and forth? That sounds like a completely different problem. But when you say you want the random inserts to be optimal and close to where they ultimately end up, that makes complete sense. All right, keep going. So now fill out the rest of the details. Like, okay, this is interesting. Now, what did you do in the project? What that made it interesting? What did you do? Because now you've convinced me the project is interesting, but I need to know what you did.
Okay, so for example, so to ensure that the random inserts are optimal, we have to deploy it. Again, we have to onboard it to another, we have to automate deployment process of not robot training anymore because the robots are already trained, but passing the trained robot data to the internal data sources.
What's the most important thing?
Okay, most important thing is...
Do not make me say this again.
Yeah. Okay.
Why should I care? Why should I care about what you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay. Example.
Make me care. Otherwise, I'm gonna be like, again, think of the interviewer. He doesn't want to be there. Make him care. Otherwise, he's gonna be surfing Reddit all day, and while you're like trying to convince him that you're a worthy candidate.
Yeah. Okay. Making sure workers can check bins so customers can obtain their items on time. In a timely manner, on time, I guess.
But that's just restating the problem. I'm just asking you, what did you do? What did you do?
Okay. Let me put that back. So... Creating a pipeline to... No, that's... Okay. Automating again. I feel like I do need that word.
Oh, that's fine.
Automating the how do I say this, or how can I make it? How can I say this in what's the most important thing? Basically, automating part 2 of the project, which is again onboarding, launching the okay. preparation of warehouses for uh, checking, I guess. I mean, for checking bins. And then, but to make that important, why should you care? Is because you need to. Oh my god. You need to. Yeah. So to automate the why is it important? Really, is just to make sure your items are all on time. That's like the main goal, to make sure your items are on time. So you don't end up with a package that ends up 2 days later when Amazon told you it was going to be.
I want to keep you. I'm gonna say, like, the past 3 to 5 minutes, I have literally been reading
Yeah.
fucking Yahoo News while you're trying to
Gee.
figure out why I should care about what you did.
Yeah.
All right, so let me yank it out of you. But my point here is that, well, you definitely need to work on the communication thing, but
Make sure it's
also
not
understand
exclusive.
why each of your projects are important.
Yeah.
So, in other words, let's go back to this. Automating preparation of warehouse for checking bins. Okay, so let me pull the story out of you. It's a follow up for the previous task, and so what did you do? Did you automate the deployment process of the model? Did you design and write the algorithm yourself? What was going on?
So the process for the algorithm for assigning bins to workers is already implemented.
Okay.
Essentially, what I had to do is make after we onboard it to the machine learning the tracking system from the part 1 of the project to the robot training. After the robot training is done,
Okay.
yeah, after the robot training is done, we then have to onboard it to a separate process, which utilizes that robot training data to then assign the bins to the workers.
Okay, so you load the model onto the robot, and then the robot actually has to, and then you have one more process in order to get the robot to use the model.
I mean, the robot already uses the model we trained, but to make it more accurate and to help make the workers use the data from the robot that we trained, that's the process.
Okay, so the robot has to, you're improving the efficiency or whatever processes the robot uses to manipulate or read from the model. So then, where do you come in? What did you do?
Okay, so let me go through this one more time again.
No, I'm asking, what did you do? Did you? I already know what the problem space is. I'm asking you, where did you come in?
So I have to automate the onboarding process of the robot I'm automating a run book, essentially. So launching the warehouse for scheduling of the bins, making sure that the proper configurations for our warehouse are set properly, making sure nothing's changed. Whenever someone opens up a ticket, I'm automating that ticket for whatever request they're doing for the warehouse.
Okay, you're talking about the warehouse, but then what does this have to do with the robot using the model?
I mean, the robot using the model is part of the warehouses. Like how to ensure that they are outputting the items as fast as they can and tracking all the items.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out. So you're fine-tuning settings on a warehouse.
Yeah.
But the robots belong to the warehouse.
Yeah.
So these are basically the parameters that the robot uses to try and move items.
They don't move items. They just check if the items, are either, if they have something wrong with them. So wrong number of items, and then they have to assign workers to physically check those bins sometimes if the defect probability is a bit too high.
Okay, so you're responsible for setting the parameters for the warehouse that the robot will use to try and find defective bins.
Defective. Yeah, generally that's how it goes. Yeah, and then after the warehouse, the robots detect the defective bins, then we have to assign it to workers to physically check those bins.
Okay, and you're responsible for automating that process.
Yeah.
Okay, why was that so difficult to say?
I feel like I don't know, because I feel like the background information was a little bit. I said the background information, but it was a bit unnecessary. Or it could be simplified a lot easier, such as.
Do you know what I'm gonna say?
What's the most important thing? Why should I care?
Why should I care? Yeah, this fucking background and context. I actually don't care. I'm gonna tell you that. In fact, if I was gonna write this and say your involvement, I would literally write robots use warehouse parameters to try and find bad bins. These bad bins need to be manually examined. You are responsible for end-to-end of this process.
Yeah.
Or portion of the process, because... So in other words, you're responsible for setting the warehouse parameters. You're responsible for, and then converting the feedback from the robot into an actual ticket for someone to examine the bin.
Yeah.
How easy was it for... Did I have to talk about anything else?
No. Yeah.
This is what I mean. You have to get to the point. Again, like, repeat... I would recommend you repeat this exercise with any experience you want to talk about. Do it with someone else. And just really, just try to get to those points. It's just you only have like 15 seconds to really have the person's attention. Otherwise, it's going to go fuck off and do something else.
That's true, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll continue doing this process for my other bullet points and
Yeah.
internships, and then improve upon it, and then see how well I can improve upon
Cool.
the current ones I already have.
Okay, so then now let's talk about you're responsible for being the end-to-end of this portion, right? So then, what did that look like? What was the what did you do?
So I'm not finished yet, but technically I had to write my own design document for the entire process. So now it's even more vague than that. Now it's just automate this run book, and make sure. Now I have to keep track of how the warehouse is doing internally. Oh, are there less bins going? Are there less items going in and out? Are we shipping less items? But that's not really important. Other than more parameters. A design document, and I now have to start my own repository and make sure I had to make my own CI/CD pipeline for the entire thing.
Okay, I think that's fine. So you could say like the problem, like that's made it more interesting, right? You took on the same independent role from the last one, except now you have more parameters to deal with. More design documents, and then you have your own CI/CD pipeline repository. So basically, more areas to work on, I guess.
Yeah, increasing the scope.
Yeah, scope's also a good one. So yeah, this is perfectly fine. Those are 3 bullet points that you can definitely talk about. And so now let's tie it into like the fucking square engineering ladder. So okay, so you if we said this, let's say we want to do a touch of L4 here, right? You just to make sure we secure the offer, make the person like us, one of them is going to be entire life cycle of the code, deployment, test production, and subsequent fixes and improvements. Did you have to iterate over this code after you got done deploying it?
I mean, I'm not deploying it. I didn't deploy it yet, but I will have to iterate over the entire. I basically am responsible for the entire life cycle of the process of automating the entire onboarding to warehouses and then the end product of where the data of the robots.
Okay, try take 2. Remember, I'm on stream. Remember, so if if you bore the shit out of me, I'm literally gonna pull up the next Yahoo News article.
Okay, so
do not bore the shit out of me. Yeah, 15 seconds. Go.
I'm solely responsible for the end-to-end of this process, from onboarding warehouses to making sure the item gets to the customer.
Better, but I don't think that's quite accurate.
Okay.
It's like, remember, we're talking about like the whole, we're talking about your portion in terms of engineering, not in terms of business. I think that's a small confusion there. In other words, I copied this place. This is responsible for the entire lifecycle of the code, development, test, production, and subsequent fixes and improvements. So in other words, you deployed it with a CI/CD pipeline repository, and then now you have to start talking about the iterations. So solely responsible is great and all, but that's pretty much a repeat of what you did here with like the increased scope, and you probably got like some some feedback from other people.
Yeah.
So Is where like.
So I'm solely designing the entire process end to end, from setting up meetings for more senior developers
Okay.
to talking with more internal team people. Um,
Okay.
ugh. Okay, I'm lost for words now after that.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And then you say you're going to say eventually that you subsequent fix and improvements. Well, the question is, what are they, right?
Yeah.
So like each one of these, right? You're gonna it's like this is what you did, right? Now you gotta come up with an example for each one. So when you said you were solely responsible for feeding and deploying, that's kind of like the overarching thing for what you did here, right? So one of them would be like got buy-in from senior developers, right? What did they have to buy into? Your plan, or do they have to like do other things in order to help support you?
Just a plan. So I give them out like a framework of what I'm going to do, like what the plan is going to be, and then ask them for feedback. Like, hey, should I change anything part of this? Do you have any disagreements with how I'm trying to do this? Any improvements on how I'm testing this and all that?
Okay, that's fine. And then you say you have more parameters in here, which is the not because compared to last time, you only had the pipeline itself, like the Amazon step or whatever.
Yeah, step function. Yeah.
Step and defined API. What else did you have to do here? What were the other parameters?
Warehouse internal parameters. So whether how many bins like now I'm dealing with the actual robot data, and making sure that the warehouse is at a non-peak area when assigning.
What's the most important thing here? What is the top level thing I should be worried about?
Okay, yeah, more parameters. Warehouse internal.
Why not
parameters.
just say warehouse internal parameters? Like if you have a new API.
Yeah.
Just say you have a new warehouse API you have to coordinate with.
Yeah.
That seems pretty simple. And then you can always like, what are these why is a new API more difficult? Then you gotta start talking about that. What,
Okay.
anything else? Any other like the things that make coordinating more difficult?
Almost Prime Day.
Okay.
It's more or less just generally summer is a busy period because everyone starts ordering stuff.
Okay, seasonality.
Yeah.
So that's consumer behavior that you have to account for as well, right?
Yeah.
And then the question then becomes, okay, how did this impact your engineering? What were the engineering considerations that you had because of this?
Make sure not to deploy stuff to workers during a peak hours, so there's less confusion among the employees.
Anything else?
Making sure that code doesn't break the machines during peak
of
hours.
course,
We don't want anything to change during peak hours.
That's to be given. Like no one pushes bad code on purpose.
Yeah.
What else?
Decreasing the chance for robots breaking during peak hours.
Okay.
Then.
That's fair. That's part of deployment schedule. Those things that you talk about in the deployment schedule. I can easily think of one.
Okay. Related to consumer behavior?
Yeah. How does it change your engineering?
Yeah. More load on the machines.
Yes. Did you? How did the more increased load affect your design, or did it not?
No, it didn't affect the design.
Okay.
But I should think of something that does affect the design. That was just a thought that came into it. With consumer behavior. So, something that I did that relates to consumer behavior.
Yeah, something like you might have had a plan for like how your code and product's gonna work, and then you realize, oh shit, we have to account for seasonality. Was there any change that occurred? Did you have to change your plans because of that or not?
Other than changing the deployment schedule, it hasn't really affected too much about consumer behavior. Hasn't affected too much about the engineering.
I am very surprised because the reason why is because with seasonality and Prime Day, you're gonna have days where there's gonna be a lot of activities, and with a lot of activity, you're gonna have a lot more bad bins. So I would.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, how did you not fucking think of that? Yeah, and you know, and it's it can also, if we want to be really specific, this could be like the traffic problem where you have 1 or 2 cars on the road, you're not gonna have a whole lot of traffic. But when you have 10,000 cars on the road, you have a lot of traffic, right? So it
Yeah.
doesn't scale. It's a exponential curve. So in other words, are you going to run into a problem where with the more activity the robots incur, the more the rate of defective bin goes up?
Yeah, defective bins increasing.
I mean, that's a business thing that you probably need to consider and probably need to write that into your engineering code. I don't know. I'm just kind of like thinking about this like off the top of my head. But this is just
Yeah.
all like the consequence of the business decision. So in other words, this like if you're gonna talk about seasonality and stuff, you gotta need to also say what changes correspond to it and whether or not you can think about all these like bad cases as well. I'm surprised you didn't even think about that in your doc.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So in other words, if let's say I'm a Google interviewer, right? I think the interviewer would say like, okay, what was so special about the project? What are the parameters? And they're gonna say, hey, did you consider? Everyone had tends to have seasonality. Right? Did you consider that? And if you freeze and say no, he's gonna be like, huh? What the fuck kind of shop are they running over there?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, you could even. I mean, there's ways to answer it better, right? You could say we considered it, but we didn't think that the load was going to be that significant, based on X, Y, Z or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
And that could be like after you confer with like senior developers about this concern or something. But this is like something that would be easily highlighted.
Yeah.
All right.
Whether the bin. Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Anyway, so your scope increase, you deploy CI repository, whatever, and then you have subsequent fixes, right? So you have the show care and maintenance of the code you wrote. Okay. So then let's tie it up. So then this is pretty easy to tie into. You can take on tasks independently. So the last thing would be like I mean, you're still in the middle, so it's kind of weird. So I guess like what are some noteworthy events like from a I would say project point of view. Like project
Now
planning
that
and
I create my
execution.
own pipeline, it becomes a lot more confusing on when should we basically deployment schedule stuff and how many stages should we have before we actually deploy it to deployment, how many testers should we actually do, how many test environments should we actually make from this before actually deploying it to production to ensure confidence in when we do deploy it.
Okay, confident interval before deploying. Okay, so then I see that there's some things here. So then now you can let's match this like some let's call it some freaking behavioral interview shit. Let me pull up the list of questions again. God, I should really bookmark this. Hold up. Probably like name a time when you had conflict with your with senior people or some shit. I don't know, or disagreements.
Did I have any? Yeah, if you were mapping it to question, I wouldn't say disagreements, because there's not really too many disagreements. When I did have a disagreement, it was at my first internship.
No, don't get sidetracked. You're getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
Focus on this.
Okay.
So tell me, like, it could be like a disagreement. This could be probably like I don't know, pressure, because you have Prime Day.
Yeah.
So there's a need to get this right under very strenuous circumstances. And then you can go into, oh yeah, well we thought about the there's more parameters, but we had to get a lot more buy-in because the stakes are much higher because like you said Prime Day, like, and then you have the testing confidence interval, etc., etc.
Yeah, and then and developers might disagree on how they should handle it.
Yep, that could be it too. Like if there, let's say some shit goes down, right? Maybe the developer has like plan A, and you say no, it should be plan B, or like plan C, D, E, or whatever. What plan should we use in case shit hits the fan? That could be an interesting tale if you actually talked about it. That is.
Yeah, I mean, no.
No, okay. So then let me put it back under the microscope. So let's say So let's say did you have any disagreements when it came to testing, or it was just like, oh, senior developer, tell me what to do.
No, I mean, I basically just told them, hey, I'm gonna write unit tests for every single step to make sure it's right. Like, no one disagreed with me.
Okay, so you got feedback for the testing and everyone was okay with it.
Yeah.
Did you not have any disagreements in that entire project?
Oh, for the first one or the second one?
The one we're talking about right now. Focus.
Yeah. So the second one, yeah. I mean, generally, um, no, other than how I should be deploying the pipeline to like how many, like what stage, like the order of stages of how I should do it. Um, yeah, the order of the stages of the pipeline I need to deploy it in, which regions have priority over others.
Okay. You can talk about that, and then how does that affect the engineering? And then how does that relate to you can take on more tasks independently, or you have efficient and wider impact?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So you might want to massage that, but now you at least have the story of the scope and then what you did there. Now you just have to tie it together into like a cohesive narrative. So why am I doing? Why are we doing all this, right? I'm basically trying to distill the experience into the most important parts that you have to hit as far as engineering goes, and then the rest can be like the angle that you might want to talk about. That one little wrinkle in there that can make the experience interesting to talk about and how it ties to the question.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing we did for the first one. Like, oh yeah, we can by focusing on like one part of this, we can answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's
Focus on the why. So the most important thing we should be focusing on is why should you care?
well, yeah,
And what's
exactly.
the most important thing?
And of course, that scope can like start shrinking down slow, like little by little, right? And then within that is like you can tell me like the like top levels, like tell me a project that I should care about. Oh yeah, we want to make sure this what's it called this random insert problem, and we want to make sure that items are being placed at the most efficient points, right? It's like okay, so where do you come in, right? What's the most important thing you did, and why should I care? It's like oh, I'm responsible for solely getting feedback and deploying the entire project. It's like, okay, so then what is the most important point that makes this difficult, and why should I care? Why can't I assign this to like some fucking code monkey? And okay, you can pick one of these. You see, like how each time I just like dive into it and say, give me the most important thing from this, and why should I care?
Yeah, and then you explain why you're not a code monkey, like why I like why you should hire me over the other person.
Exactly. As long as you can keep answering that, and then get to like a very obvious, aha, okay, this is the complexity. Like, or you know, they might ask you, give me another one, or give me another one, and as long as you keep doing that, eventually the guy will say, yeah, this guy's probably pretty good. So, especially like if you can come up with a way of like the order staging pipeline or whatever, and why this ends up becoming important, and it can highlight some portion of the behavior interview, right? But really, it's this stuff like this that'll make that thing. Oh yeah, we had this one issue that most people don't think about, and we solved it like this. Something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so we could keep doing this, but now that I've walked you through this twice, I kind of want you to watch the stream after and then be able to come up with like, I would say, do this for the rest of your experiences or internships, and really try to find like one or two projects that you can really come up with this on. And also, hold on. Let me pull up the stream I did with M about this, because he had the exact same problem you did. So let me pull that up for you.
Okay.
I think I mean yeah, here's a playlist. I think should be yeah, it's probably the mock interview stream. Yeah, resume session 9 and session 10 here. So yeah, if you go to the playlist, it should be session 9 and 10.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so watch your own performance and then watch the stream. You can put it on like 2x speed or whatever. And then you will probably recognize that he's doing the exact same shit you are. At the time, at least. But, you know, if he got a Microsoft interview, he must have, like, not pissed the other guy off, so I guess he did something right.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. Point here, that's your homework. You want to be able to keep doing this for, like, at least three or four more projects.
Okay. Yeah. I'll try to do one for each experience placement I had.
Right. And since you have a girlfriend, you can always, like, try to pass some, what's called, explanations and storytelling off by her. And tell her to be, like, as brutal as possible. Like, oh, here's a good way to do it. Like, imagine that you two weren't dating, and that you were just some random fucking guy at the bar trying to talk to her. And just pretend that, and then observe how quickly she would get bored.
Yeah. She get very bored easily.
Yeah, exactly. So ask her to do that. Pretend that you're like some random guy trying to talk to you about what you're doing. See how quickly, and then ask. And the moment she gets bored, tell her to let you know.
I will see how that goes.
Oh, dude, believe me, she'll probably tell you like how boring like all your fucking rambles are, and that will probably mean a lot more than it coming from me.
I mean, I already know she thinks I'm boring. I am boring.
It's fine. You're in college. You're boring. You're boring to everyone anyway. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just being unnecessarily mean at this point. But the point I'm trying to get at is that even if your experiences are not interesting in and of themselves, because I mean, like if you compare me to fucking Elon Musk, I'm not that interesting. But there's always some like one or two issue in there that's gonna make the guy go, "Huh, that's interesting. I never thought about it." You want to get to that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a hard point to find. Generally, I don't find any stuff interesting. I guess not too much. And so like, but I'll do the exercise first and then try and find something interesting about my projects.
Believe me, I can make underwater basket weaving interesting.
Dude, I made a shirt for underwater basket weaving one time.
Fuck.
Not like I made a shirt that basically said my university with the underwater basket weaving, like pretend like a program shirt as a joke.
I mean, yeah, sure. But what I'm trying to say is that you need to be able to make sure you get to the critical point and keep someone engaged. It's almost like a salesmanship in a way. Because effectively, that's what this behavioral interview is. You're trying to sell yourself, not like a prostitute, but like trying to sell your reputation, sell your experience, to make sure that the interviewer really wants to hire you over the next guy. That's salesmanship.
Yeah, never as good as that. Yeah,
It comes with practice, but it's all about knowing what is going to make your target audience, what's called like tick. Like in this case, your target audience is an engineer. He wants to hear about interesting, complex problems. I mean, I could talk all day about like anything with a build system, and that's probably gonna be pretty interesting to most people. Like, how the fuck do you get all this to compile efficiently? You know?
Yeah.
Like literally, the moment I say, how do I make a 15,000 module and 3 million line code base compile efficiently? You're like, oh shit. You know? And that's kind of that reaction, that initial, oh shit, I want to hear about this. That's what you want to do. Okay. Anyway, enough of me rambling. I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself at this point. And you have your homework. So, with that, we got like 30 minutes left. Do you want to do a mock interview, or do you want to just
sure.
Okay.
What was the other option?
The other option is to like revamp your fucking resume.
It's okay. We'll just do a mock interview. I have to redo my resume at some point, anyways.
Okay.
Because I haven't touched it in like the last year.
That's fine. Anyway, my point. Anyway, so do this exercise first, and then believe me, it will make writing your resume a whole lot easier.
Okay. And then one day I will find the actual quantitative metrics for this.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, just find some way to quantify your work and make it and show that it's not like all fucking bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that like you have to follow up on it and build off it. Okay, that's usually a pretty good sign. But yeah, let me pull up the doc.
What do you mean by follow up on it? Like follow up on the bullet points or follow up on the project?
Follow up on the project. Like most interns, their projects we just kind of dispose of, to be honest.
Oh. Sad days.
Sad days. Yeah. I mean, like the point is really to teach them something, right? But like as far as like what they produce, we really can't do much with it.
That makes sense. It's only like 3 months. Like engineers have a lot more time.
No, I think I experienced this more so at Apple than anywhere else. But that's all I'll say about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, let me pull up a problem.
Yeah. Making sure I don't write buggy code so I don't hurt myself in the future definitely helps.
Yeah, exactly. Now that you realize, oh shit, I'm fucking up here. You better not fuck up anymore, right? You're allowed to make the mistake once, maybe twice. After that, after that, no.
Yeah, like when I my previous internship, I don't want to be coming back like a year later, like what the fuck did I write, sort of thing, and then go through reading that entire thing and relearning again. That's tedious.
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, this one's way too fucking easy. Yeah, and then they're not giving me this one. This one's easy.
Tucson?
No, it's a fucking graph problem. I feel like graph problems are way too easy for you, dude.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. They're simple to explain, but writing the code, I don't know. It depends.
Okay, fine.
Question.
I mean, since you're asking,
I mean, you can give me a different question. You don't have to give me the right question. Say.
let me see. I think. Hold up. Nah, actually, why not? Let's do it. Let's do this. This should be very easy. And I expect you. Remember, we're only what's it called? We only care about the cleanliness of the approach anyway. So.
Okay.
I get the timer out. And then here we go. So, I'm going to give you a 2D board and a list of words from the dictionary, and I want you to find all the words in the board. So each cell must be constructed from letters of sequentially adjacent cells, where adjacent cells are those that are horizontal and vertical. So the same letter cell may not be used more than once in a word. So let's give an example, right? I have this board up here, and I have words oath, pee, eat, and rain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can spell eat by going backwards, right? Yeah, in the second row. But I can also spell oath by going O-A from left to right, and then T-H from top to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the words are not going to be available to me, so I don't print them out. But the only thing I care about is that you want to be able to print out all the words that are found in the graph.
Board.
Or the board, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, I think that makes sense. So basically, you're giving me words. I have to be able to construct those words inside the board, and they have to be adjacent. So as in horizontally or vertically adjacent to the current word letter. I mean.
Yeah, something along those lines.
4 directionally.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so. Essentially, I mean, I can just use your example right now. So, are we allowed? So, we're allowed to use the same letter for different words, as I can see in the output. Because when you explained it, it seemed So the same letter cell cannot be used more than once in a word. Okay, yeah. So we can't use imagine there's an E-A-T. We can't traverse backwards and forwards again. So we would need to visit it to ensure there's no cycles for that.
Sure.
Essentially, this is just like a normal traversal. So what I use is essentially this is traversing and keeping track if we can make the word or not through our traversal. So we can either use BFS or DFS through this. I feel like DFS would be a little bit simpler in this case because if we use BFS usually has the properties of getting the shortest path. We really don't need the extra property at this moment. We'll need the DFS, which is just that first search, which is searching the deepest we can.
Okay.
And in this case, this is searching the deepest we can until we can find the word. So let me just write that down into a more succinct format.
Okay.
So, search, start at a letter in the board. Search all 4 directions, keeping track. Yeah, search all 4 directions until we either make the word or a word cannot be made with the current progress. With the current traversed directions. I can probably improve that a little bit how I word it. Until we can make the word, a word cannot be made with the traversals, I guess. So yeah, let's map this. Let's map this a little bit more into the code section to make it a bit easier. So, maybe we can implement. So we iterate over the words because we need to, find the word in the board. So for each word in words, basically we have now the words. So search for a word in board. So that will be its own function, but we won't implement that. That's just a high level at this point, since we have to search for each word. if word is found, then add it to the result list. After that, we would just return the result list. Return the result list for each. So let's make sure that generally what we have is okay first before diving deeper into the searching for a word inside the board. So
Okay.
basically we have oath over here, oath. So we're searching for the board. Generally we'll find the O character in the board, so that'll be starting here. Traverse all 4 directions. So we have an E and an A here. Let's write it down so we don't get confused. So we start with O. That can be sprouted out to O and OE, and then now from OA it can either turn to OAA or OAT. It can't go back to OAO because the same letter cell cannot be used more than once in a word. So it becomes that. Those are the only valid options. After that, this becomes OATH, and this becomes OAN, but we know that since this is the same letters, like the same length of the word's letter count is the same as what we traversed so far, and we can't find it.
Okay.
Equal to length of O.
Search for word on the board. All right. Okay.
Valid. Oath equal valid. So yeah, that's generally how we go for that.
You're gonna, so you're looking at each word in the board, and you're
yeah,
just gonna keep
each
doing
letter
that.
in the board. Yeah.
Okay.
Start traversing for a starting point.
What would be the runtime of this?
So for the board, for each word and word, so that assuming the n is the length of the words list, and then M and K is the length, the rows and the columns of the board, it would be n times M times K.
So okay, so yeah, so you have the number of words on the board times
Yeah.
n times n. So obviously it's gonna be very, very fucking big.
Yeah, big, yeah.
So what is the inefficiency here, and can you do better?
Yeah, so so we need to search for every board in the word. Can we reuse previous traversals of the board? So generally, would it be good to do a pre-processing of the board to mark all valid start points?
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by is we would mark 0, 0 as one valid index to start because that has an O in there. Maybe a P in the index. We cannot find a P in there, so that would be, we don't have to search for P at all. E, we have several E's, so that would be in 1, 0. Also in 1, 3. And then we will also search for R. You can see R is only 1, so that would just be 2, 3. So technically we will have to search for these 3 indices. These 4 at these 4 coordinates of the matrix, but that wouldn't really improve our runtime too much because, well, let's see how analyze it first. See how much it can improve the runtime, because technically we just prune the amount of start indices we have, but worst case, they can technically all be the start of, the entire board can be the start of all the words that we have. Imagine like all the same characters, the board and words all start with the same character too, so that wouldn't really improve our worst case.
Okay.
So
it doesn't matter the worst case, but even then, the worst case, what we can get to, we can get much better than your M and N or whatever you got going.
Yeah.
So the question now becomes, how are you gonna do that?
Yeah. Let's see how we can improve the worst case for each word and words. Generally, I think
we're not talking about worst case. We're talking about average case.
Yeah. Like the average runtime on the worst case algorithm.
Average time on the average case across the board. A big O.
Yeah, big data. Yeah. Essentially, like, because average time across all
Yeah.
inputs, but generally how like a good heuristic is just you validate the average runtime on the worst case instead of just for an
Sure.
all
Whatever,
case.
man. Whatever, man.
Okay. But yeah, anyways, for each word and word, I mean, we still technically have to traverse each word because we need to find out. We need to search for every word in our board. So I think an efficiency we can try and tackle is here for search word and words. There's an off chance we could use a try, but I'm not sure how that would. That might be a bit too off. Not a bit too
Okay. Well,
much for us currently.
oh, remember
Yeah.
what the question one asked? What are we doing inefficiently?
Search for the wording in the board.
Okay. What exactly is inefficient about it?
We're starting from a new process each single time.
Okay.
We're starting the traversal of the entire board each time we
Okay.
search for the words. So we
Sure.
try and see how we can reuse the previous work we've already done.
Sure.
So that's where the compute the start indices case where that came from. But initially,
why would we compute start indices?
So we know we don't have to traverse the entire board for each word. We just know to
But
start
you're
from
traversing
these
the word. You're traversing the entire board in order to get this already.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean that could be fine, but like.
Yeah. Okay. Traversing. How can we optimize this to a better state?
I mean, this is not bad. It's just that. I just want you to be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah. Like, I need to be aware of how I can improve this algorithm. I mean, there's one point where we could make is that we start at both the end of the string of the word and the beginning of the string, and then we search both ways until we can find something.
Okay.
And combine the words, but that might be a bit too. That doesn't improve the worst case, or the average case, I guess. Because at worst we still have to traverse the entire board. How can we improve the searching for the word in the board? Start indices probably no go. We can stop indices. We can essentially look for. So for a certain word, we have to look for the next letter in our word.
Sure.
If the neighboring indices of the current letter we're processing. So for in this case, O, if we don't see if it doesn't have a neighbor of A, we stop it right away and we don't really take a look at it. But that is also me just describing more of search for word in board process.
That's true. You're gonna have to search through the board anyway. But what you're describing is basically constructing a data structure that would allow you to do that very efficiently. So, for instance, if you have oath, right? But then what happens if I have, and add something like or, something that shares a lot of the words or letters?
Yeah. I mean, generally, no. If we're searching for something different, that could help. But if we're searching for something, to make it a bit more clear, we could. So if we have sharing, if our words array shares a lot of characters, so we can do something like OA, like a try, right?
Okay.
OAR.
Yeah, that's true.
To TH.
Okay.
Sorry, I should put R.
That's fine. Yeah, I know what you're trying to do. Okay. I mean, that's fine, but then your runtime will be determined by the length of words themselves.
Yeah. Which is a little bit of an improvement, rather than... Because initially the word length still counts.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to make sure the word exists inside the the board, so we have to traverse all indices of the string anyways.
Okay.
Um,
Let's.
are all,
I understand what you're
I'm
doing.
guessing, huh?
I'm gonna say I understand what you're doing, but let's not go there. Let's
Okay,
keep it within the a more deterministic realm of the board itself. So.
okay. Um, so it's a 2D board. So um 2D board. The words are not all the same length. Um, pruning early doesn't really. I mean, pruning early helps, but it's still part of the general algorithm for searching the word. Um, hmm. How can we, other than searching for the each word individually and making sure that word fits in the board? Would it be possible? No. I had an idea, but it's a bit too far fetched. Basically, we keep a counter of each row of. We keep a counter of which word occurs in which row and how many times it occurs. So, one here,
Okay.
A2. But that would be a little too unwieldy to implement and reason through on why this is good because we still have to traverse through the board beforehand
Okay.
to get all these numbers.
That's fair. I think you made a fair point. So let's actually go back to the original thing that you mentioned. The with this OA oath and R this try.
Yeah.
So I think this might actually be not a bad solution, since you've kind of ruled out everything else. So why don't you go ahead and try writing it?
Okay. So first of all, do you want me to implement the try too, or can we assume that it's already implemented for us?
For now, let's assume that it's already implemented for you, and if we have time, we'll implement the try ourselves.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So let's hash out the more searching for the word in board algorithm then.
Okay.
So yeah. Generally now we have I try to process. So generally we basically check at the beginning of our try. So try would just be start at initial root would be better. Start at root of try. Because there's only one root, and then we'll make it for other words. So just starting with oath, for example, and or oath and or. Let's just write it down. So yeah, sorry, root a try. Make sure neighbors are in try. Try character. So basically, the neighbors of the try node. So make sure neighbors of word I are in try word. So basically, to make this, it would essentially be a recursive function here. So let me define how recursive works in this instance. So func, we'll start with the try, of course. And then we need the word next. So basically, we'll do some to make sure we're on the right try firsthand. But basically, essentially at each step. So if the word at index we're currently handling is in the try, then we do some processing. Otherwise, else, it's not in the try. That means it's invalid. We don't really care about it anymore. We don't want to pursue this path any further. So return. Let's just return a false. Make this a boolean. So whether word exists in board. Whether word exists in board. So yeah, try word I and try do processing of board in here. After do the processing of board, so processing a board means checking neighbors of board IJ. Yeah. Checking neighbors of board IJ, checking if neighbors in board IJ exist in try. Yeah. Now that I think about it, this is a bit irrelevant because we made our try from the words. So after that, that check originally comes back here. So it comes to the checking if the neighbors are in. So if neighbors exist in try, proceed to next try node. Else, oops, return false. And then of course we have our base case check of, base case of if word I, if index of word equal length of word done processing word exists in board.
Okay.
So yeah, that's generally how algorithm will go. Proceed to next try node is going to be next iffy part, because
Okay.
then what happens if we branch? Well, eternally we just traverse through all possibilities. Traverse through all possibilities of try node.
Okay.
Of try at level on a level on the word letter level. So yeah, I guess that's how the algorithm will go.
Let's see something. So you defined your function whether the word exists on board. Your base case, if the length of the word is equal to the word, then you persist. Then done. Well, the first thing. Okay, that's fine. At each step, if the neighbor of board exists in try, well, I'd be a little. When you say exists in try, what the heck do you mean?
So what? Like, imagine we're at A, right?
Yeah.
Neighbors a try then, like lower labor. If we had the visualization, then lower neighbors are try.
Okay, sure.
So in this case, if we're at A, then it has to exist in T and R.
Okay. That's fine. I think that makes it. Okay, well, I think this is fine. The problem you kind of run into is that, let me see. Are you so sorry? Make sure maybe the words aren't. Okay, I mean it's a little vague, but I understand what you're trying to do here. So let's see if we can write the code for it.
Okay. Just to make this a bit cleaner, then let's put it at the top.
Sure.
Because that's more the high level thing.
Make sure neighbors of word I are in try. Okay.
Yeah, and this is how we define it. And depending on if this is true or not, then
okay,
add it to the list. Okay, so
go do your thing.
Yeah. So let's go for search word. What should I name it? Just name it a matrix. I'm assuming since you say 2D array, it can have n times n. Like, it doesn't have to be a square, right? It can be a rectangle.
Yeah, it could be whatever.
Okay. So yeah, so matrix is a pretty good word for it then. Or let's do board to keep in track with the wording. So search word and board. So yeah. So now we iterate through all the words that we have. So we need the words variables. So for word and words, we'll define this in a bit. Search board, word, tree, where is it? Okay, yeah, so tree and word for our algorithm. So define that in a bit. So basically now we go to the next high level. So search for word and board. So search board, we give it the word, give it the tree. If search board, so that means if it exists inside it, then we define the list over here. Append the word we're considering because we found it. Otherwise, we don't really do it. And yeah, and then at the end, we would just return the word.
Okay.
So now it becomes search board, the word indices. So basically at this point, we need to make sure the try is, we need to do the processing of the board. So if index, so yeah, so let's go handle our base cases first. Let's also add another index just to keep track of the index for word instead of actually making a substring of the word to pass it to. So word if index equal length of word, return true because we have finished traverse.
Okay, well, before you continue, let me ask.
Yeah.
Well, since you have a try filled with every single word, do you need to actually iterate through every single word?
Do we need to iterate through every single word since we haven't created the try yet, you mean?
No, you have created the try. So my question to you is, do you still need to iterate through every single word after you've created the try?
Oh, no. We just iterate over the try then, yeah. While a try is not empty. Then we search over here at this level. So now we search for a current level of try for the board. So if that is true, then yeah. And then now we check the neighbors of the board. So basically, let's have our directions array to make everything a little bit simpler and what directions we need to traverse in. So each of these corresponds to left, right, up, down. I hope I didn't copy anything. Okay, yeah, so yeah, now we need to get the board indices. So basically for input here.
Well, my question is, do you need the directions? Do you need this?
No. Yeah, I mean, we have to make sure it's in the board, so we do need to look at the neighbors of the current board index.
So why do you need the array?
Of directions?
Yeah, why? Why not just do x plus 1 and y plus 1? Why do you need this?
Cause just to make everything a little bit simpler, so I can just traverse over directions to apply the shifts and difference.
Sure.
Yes. So for direction for x, y, and directions, Basically, now we search board again. So if word I no let's type up the next ones first. So for next I, so the current coordinates we're given is row plus next row. Row plus x, call plus y. If they're valid, make sure they're valid coordinates so we don't like move off the map. Let's just do board and 0, just like that. Then we can actually start traversing around the boards. So okay, no. So if board next row, next column, we do still need to add the visited, so we don't revisit nodes again. So if board equals in try letter word index, a little bit unwieldy, a little bit confusing, but yeah. If board next row, so we need to make sure it can be seen from the current level of board we're at, try we're at. So after that, then we search for the next indices. We go to the next word that we're at. So we're try. Try word index. Because now this means we traverse through the try.
Sure.
And then now index plus 1. Because then, if it's in there, that means we actually found it. So next row, next column.
Okay.
So yeah, and then after that, yeah, we would return true. So basically, let's store this in the results. So search result equals that.
Okay.
Okay, I have a better idea. If any of those results turn up true, we're basically return if any of those results turn out to be true.
Okay.
Or yeah, if there is a true, it'll return true. Otherwise, it'll return false if they're all false.
Okay. So my question.
So yeah.
Okay. Is that your answer?
Let me run it through one more time, because what if I'm wrong? So how does this react to cases where the word is not inside the board at all? We already have the try, search board, lower double levels. We need to make sure that the end character of it, of the try. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, if board in next row a try. So another case where, since we're already passing the word, then if, if
well,
not
remember what I just asked you. Do you need to keep passing in the word? And you said no earlier. Now you're saying yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't. Okay. Try, because try already keeps track of the word. I think I should have updated my design a little bit better for this. 0. Tries not empty search board. So search board index. Okay, this is a bit confusing on how this is going to work. So I need to give the proper indexes. So search board. I think it might be a bit better to separate it into its own function. Find the starting index and then going for the separating the process between processes. So, okay, here. Find start index of start point.
Well, okay. Here's another issue you have. You say if
Yeah.
search board try return res word. What?
Yeah. So, because initially I didn't update it because originally I had the word in word thing.
Okay.
So while try is not empty, search word. So now we have to update that a little bit. So what would be a good end? Essentially the case when we finish searching out the
no,
try.
you tell me,
So,
dude. Yeah, no, you tell me.
Yeah, for sure. So we need to. So yeah, we need to search the board. Our try contains all of our.
I'm gonna cut you
letters.
off actually.
Hmm?
Yeah, I'm gonna cut you off because it's about 35 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
And you should have actually solved this problem by now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
you
I
know
could have
where
solved
you
it with the naive one, but putting the try made it a bit more.
The try would have. The try's a freebie. That's actually not even your problem. Do you know what your problem is?
Well, too much time writing out everything and not being thorough enough.
No, that's not even your problem.
Okay.
Do you want to do another guess, or do you want me to tell you?
One more guess, I guess. Not committing to the pseudocode.
Pretty much, yeah. I think it's you. Just like, well, you have this. Let me paste the time, and I want to show you something very interesting. So you spend 15 minutes like trying to and figure out the try solution. I have no problem with that actually, because you're like talking about a bunch of different things, right? Like I get like your average improved case MKK, fine. You come with a try solution. You're trying other things, and I say, okay, let's go with the try solution, fine. What I have a problem with is that, well, you spend 5 minutes with the pseudocode, fine, but then you spend basically 13 minutes coding, and I'm like, how? How the heck did you spend 13 minutes coding and only come up with like fucking 10 lines?
Okay, yeah.
This is my question. I don't get it. So to me, this looks like you kind of threw away your plan, which you kind of did with the search words thing. But when I told you to search, if you didn't need to search words, then you should have went back to the drawing board and fixed this here.
Yeah.
So there's a point where like, okay, you need to revise your plan. It didn't quite work. So then now you have to make sure your whole idea still works.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was my mistake. I should go back to the design if I feel something wrong rather than go back.
Now you don't need to do it. Double check to make sure everything still works. Make sure that the core logic works. Because again, once you have to try, you have every single letter. So now that limits. You don't have to try every single word. You just have to search in the. You have to iterate through the board one time.
Yeah, to make sure all the words at the top level of the try. Yeah.
In other words, you fucked up because you just like you fell into old habits.
Okay.
You know, I want you to rewatch the stream. Look at how slowly you work. Like even right now, it should be very obvious. Like 13 minutes for this? What? And notice also, like, you said, oh, let me do the directions thing for it to be cleaner. I don't care if it's clean at this point. I just want you to get the answer first, and then you can clean up later.
Okay, yeah.
Remember, start simple. It's the exact same thing. We mentioned this before. Don't over-optimize. This is you over-optimizing. I know you're doing this trick, but to me, it's just like, it doesn't even matter because, like, you can always clean it up. How easy would it be, like, if you had the right answer, you can always refactor in, like, 2-3 minutes to get this.
Okay, yeah.
It's the exact same thing we've talked about. You've been over-optimizing on the wrong thing, and you never even solved the problem. Remember what's important. It's important that you solve the fucking problem.
The problem, yeah.
And you never solved the fucking problem.
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah, you basically need to work on being able to not only adjust when your idea is wrong, but also commit to the fucking idea. And when you see this shit again, it means that something else is incorrect. So. Yeah,
I should have just done like 4 recursive calls and then just a base case.
Not even recursive. No. You're missing the point. It's not, oh, I should have done more recursive problems. No. What you should have done is verify and check your idea.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like,
at this point, you're thinking it's doing more problems. You did 147 problems already.
Yeah.
How many more problems do you need to do?
Yeah, hopefully not many, but yeah, I see your point.
Yeah, you should not. If you're thinking that, oh, I need to do more problems, I have not taught you a single thing.
Yeah. No, yeah, no. I didn't mean like I should do more problems. I said I should put four recursive calls instead of uh solve that
No,
problem.
no, no.
I don't know.
Again, even if you say that, you still haven't learned a thing. It's about the setup, your approach. You
Yeah.
know how to write recursion. It's very obvious. You know how to write a recursion. The thing is that you're just skipping fucking steps. Like, for one, when you did this, oh, return true, to me, I'm like, well, the immediate red flag is, well, what did you define the function to be? Remember, I said, what do you want to get out of the function? And so you're saying, oh, well, all the words will be found in res, right? Well, then, are you populating res? You say the answer will be there. I don't see the answer being there.
Yeah, because originally my idea was if it returns true, the search board returns true or false whether the word exists inside the board.
Exactly, and the plan changed, so you better make sure that your fucking idea is still right. So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with recursion. Even if I threw this at you in an array problem, it would still be the exact same thing.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I think where I went wrong was not going back to the design board as soon as I found out my solution was a bit iffy.
Yeah. If you ever catch yourself taking like so much time just explaining some very simple code like this, it's like, oh, this variable, maybe this variable, maybe this variable. You should stop yourself and think, oh, wait, does my plan still make sense? The fact that you're still trying to like debate variables like that, it's just like, it was a very big red flag. You had an idea and you should have thought of it, and then even then, like, even if like, let's say for instance, like you stuck with the idea and you didn't work and you just kept with it, right? There should be no reason it should take you that long to write a fucking DFS.
Okay, yeah.
So that's all I got for you. I don't know how to fix that for you. I think it's just a mistake that you have to be aware of, and then for you to like really keep track of your mistakes and still be like super very vigilant about it. That's all I can say. I don't have a way of actually fixing this.
Okay, yeah. I need to be stop over optimizing for everything. I get you, yeah.
All right, but that's it. Is there anything? And then also like the communication issue of you're over explaining things, but it's fine. Compared to the idea thing, it's meaninless. So.
Okay, no, I get you, yeah.
Alright.
Okay, I mean, no other questions
Okay.
for me right now.
Alright, then I'm gonna let you go. Keep up with the practice homework and make sure that every single mistake that you make, anything that looks weird, anything you take too much time doing, really trace out the core issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like generally I need to be a little bit more spend a little bit more time in the design phase mapping out the step, and then this will
Not even that. It's like it's the efficiency. Remember, I always said, "Oh, can you be more efficient? Can you be more efficient?" And then what does that change?
Yeah.
And make sure you cover your tracks for every single change that you can possibly do. Again, I always say talk to Matthias, see how he got over that.
Okay.
So look for. Yeah. So look for him. Chat with him. Say that you're the guy, and that you want to talk to him about like your issues. See if he has any words for you. But at this point, it's literally you should have made this mistake before. You should recognize it, and this shouldn't have been a problem.
Okay.
You know, maybe I'm the one who's cracked. You know, maybe I fucked up, and if so, let me know. But like to me, it's like I feel like we've talked a lot about this before. So.
Yeah, I think it's really bad habit of explaining and getting nervous and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you're aware of it, then you need to practice on getting rid of it. That's all I'll say. So, with that, I'm gonna let you go. You have plenty to work on. You have plenty of homework.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
I'll talk to you later.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Bye. All right. Any other questions from the crowd? If not, then I'm just gonna shut off for tonight. I'll give you guys a minute or something. Oh, all right. I guess people ain't asking questions, so I'm gonna shut it off. All right, cool. So we will probably we'll have a stream tomorrow, Saturday morning. Hopefully we get a little bit more input from our guy M. Let's see what's up. Until then, thank you all for joining me. I guess socials are in the description down below. Follow me if you have any questions. Join the Discord. I'm pretty active on there. And if you guys want interview coaching as well, feel free to book me for coaching at eChanTech.com. Otherwise, see y'all later.